Hello guys, welcome to a new video. So today we are going to be discussing about forms and how you can manage forms in your Fyne application. So in our case, we're going to create two forms. We're going to create a login form and a register form, and then we'll have a dashboard page so that when you successfully register, it takes you to the login, and then you can log in to access the dashboard. So let's get started. So I have a very simple application here. We can just run it so that we see how this looks like. So this is a simple application. We can start building on it. So in our case here for the content, of course, we are going to show a login form. So we can just get rid of this. And then once this application successfully runs, we're just going to get a function. We can just show login form. Of course, it's going to accept the window, and then we're going to access also the app. So we can come down here and define the function, login function. We can define our function here. Then we can say func show login form, and then we're going to have a window here. Of course, this is going to be a Fyne.window, and then we're going to have an app here. Of course, this is going to be a Fyne.app, and then now we can start defining our UI, how the app is, how the login is going to look like. So the login, of course, is going to have a username. They're going to also have a password entry. So we can start defining the username. So we can say username. Of course, it's going to be a widget.new entry, and then we can set the placeholder username. Let's set placeholder. Of course, it's going to be username. And then you also need the password. You can just copy that. Then here we're going to change this to password. Then it's going to be new password entry. Then you can say here password. We're going to include the password, so we have the username and the password. The next thing we're going to add is the button, so you can just call it login btn. It's going to be a widget this new button, and then we can just call this login. It's going to be a login button, and then here we're going to have the function. Going to have a function so that we're going to implement the login logic. So we're going to capture the username. Also going to say here username dot text. Of course, this is how we capture this detail. And then here we're going to come and copy this. Then we're going to change this to password. Okay, let me just change this to username entry so that it can be able to differentiate it. You can just call this username entry, and this one you can call it password entry, so that you can change this to entry to differentiate them. Now we have captured these two details. Now we have to do something with them. First, we want to make sure that these two are not empty, so we can say if username is, I can just say equal to empty, or password equals to empty. We can just show a dialog and say dialog dot show information. You can give it a title, because this first one is the title, and then the message you can say login error, and then you say username and password cannot be empty. And then we need the window. We can supply the W. So if they're going to be empty, it's going to show this dialog. Otherwise, if everything else is successful, we can show a dashboard. We can show a dashboard here to implement that later on. So on successful login, it's going to, if you submit it, it's going to show this in case if these two are empty. But if they are not empty, we are going to show the dashboard. But for login, if you have not registered your account, you can register. So we need a register button here. You can just say here register button. That is if you don't have a login. So we can just create a function here called show register form. Of course, there's a func here, show register form. Of course, it's going to accept a window, Fyne.window. It's going to accept the an app, it's Fyne.app, and then we can come back here and define our register button. So you can say register button. It's going to be a widget. That's new button, and then you can say register. Then you can capture the function here, the register button. So what's going to happen here is if the user has clicked the register button, we're going to show the show register. Of course, the window, we're going to display the window. We're also going to display the app. In our case, it's going to be W and A, so that if somebody clicks the register button, it should be able to pop up this register form. Otherwise, it should be able to show the dashboard. We can also define the dashboard so that it show dashboard, so that we can come here, and say show dashboard. Supply the W, the window, and the A. So that a successful login, we're going to show this. So for the dashboard, you can decide to just show a very simple label. We can say maybe we can define a very simple label, and then we show widget dot new label. We can say maybe with styles. We can say maybe welcome to the dashboard. Welcome to the dashboard. Then you can say Fyne the text align center, and then find the text size. You can bold it. Let's say true, and then we can maybe have a logout button, log out btn, so that if somebody successfully logins, they can log out. Of course, going to be widget dot button. You can say log out, of course, with a function. You can define our function here. But unsuccessful logout. Oh, sorry, it should be new btn. That unsuccessful logout, we're going to show the login form WA. Then we can display it, because we can define our content. It's going to be a container. That's new vbox. You can just display a very simple vbox that's going to contain the label. It contain the label and the logout button. And then we can set w, let's set content to content. Then we have successfully created our dashboard. Then we're going to display this add the content for the show login form so that you can also define it. So you can come here and say maybe the content, which is going to be a container dot new vbox. You can just use a very simple vbox. You can add our username entry, our password entry, our login button, and then our register button. And then we're going to set the content, set content to content. Then we have successfully defined this. So let's run this and see how this looks like so far. Let's run that. So we've created our main function, we've created a login, and then we've created a register because we've not added content to it. So this is how the app looks like. Yeah, we can type, okay, we can do this. Let's just try this. As you can see, if username and password cannot be empty, but unfortunately it's logging in immediately. So we can come back here so that if it is empty, should be able to say this, and then we can add more logic so that we can show that only if that one is successful. So this dashboard should only be shown if it's successful. So we can come and say if username goes to username. Of course, in a real application, you're going to, you can say maybe just username, and password. Of course, in a real application you can't do this. Of course, we are going to, maybe on successful login, that's when it's going to show the dashboard. Else we can just show this dialog, login error, username and password. You can say maybe wrong username stroke password. Of course, for real authentication you can't tell which one is wrong because somebody could be trying to access our account that they don't belong to them. That's why you do that. So if the password is correct and the username password is correct, you can try this. You can see your wrong username or password, login error cannot be empty. So you can try adding any. Then you can see wrong username or password. Yeah, so we have successfully prevented anyone from accessing the dashboard. Yeah, the register button, we can implement the register now. Once I'm done doing that, then we can structure our forms, because you can see right now they're all over the place. So for the register, we're going to need the username, the password, and the confirm password. So we can just define the username, of course, entry, or you can just copy this. Let's just copy this instead of typing it again. Username, password. Then for the password entry, you can copy it again. Then you come and say confirm password, confirm password. You can copy that. Confirm password, yeah, we can confirm both passwords. And then from there, now we can start defining our register button. You can just copy this so that you can save time from typing it again. You can just copy that, and this one is going to be register between, and then you can say here register button, and then you can copy this so that we can confirm password. Of course, this is going to be confirm password as well. Confirm password entry, and then you can also include this in the check so that we confirm that it's not empty. So you can just change this to all. inputs, can say maybe inputs cannot be empty, something like that, cannot be empty. And then for the register, we can say, we can just come here and confirm that we have to make sure that the password, we can have to make sure that the password and the confirm password must be correct. So apart from this check, we can come here and say if password is not equal to confirm password. We can show this dialog here, confirm password. We can maybe call this password, and then we say password and confirm password do not match, so that this prevents people from maybe entering different passwords. And then another thing that we can do is that, remember, on successful register, you should be able to maybe move this guy to the show login form. So in this case, if all these are okay, then we can show the register. So of course we don't need this. Maybe we can say, just get rid of this. If these ones are not empty, that means we have successfully registered. And then maybe I can move this in here, so that if they are not empty, that means we have entered something. We're going to show that if these two, confirm password and the password, are different, then we're going to tell you they are different. But if they are not different, then we can maybe show the login. We can show login form, because we have to make sure that we have successfully registered you. And then after successfully registering, we can maybe add a register dialog. Can show maybe register account registered, something like that. Account registered. So if these are, if they are empty, you're going to show them. But if they're not empty and the password and the confirm password are correct, and of course we have added the username and everything. Of course you can also check if the username exists in the database and so on. You can add more. So if these two are not equal, then until they are equal. Otherwise, if they are equal, we're going to show that actually the account is successful, and then we're going to show the register account. So we can now display this content. We can say content is going to be equal to container that new vbox. We can add a vbox here, because you're going to have the username entry, password entry, and then confirm password entry. Confirm password entry, and then we also need to add the register button, and then we can maybe set content to content. We can set that to that content. So let's view this. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, so we have successfully input. Okay, login error. Yeah, register. It's successful. Okay, let's see if it allow. Can say inputs cannot be empty. Good. So now if I have come to the register, I should be able to go back to the login button. So we can add a login button. So I can come here and say login btn. Then I'm going to say widget new button. Then you can maybe say back to login, or you can just say login Then of course we're going to have the function. After clicking that, you're going to show login form, and then I can add it here, login btn. Then let's see how this looks like. Okay, now we can move between login and register. Now this UI looks terrible. We want the form to be at the center here. And another thing, instead of displaying these errors, we can also add a label here so that we can display the login form. So what I'm going to create a layout whereby I think we can also maybe this content new view box. Okay, let me try something here, maybe centered form, and then we can say container new center. Then I take the content. I hope this works. Centered form. This is the register. Okay, let's see if this works. Let's go to register. Yep, but it's not so good. It's not so good. Okay, let me just create another. Let me just get rid of this. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a layout. I'm going to create a custom layout so that it can be able to center our forms, and then we can make sure that it's going to be centered properly and it's going to be at a given fixed width. So we can define a new layout here, package details, and then I'm going to define a type here, which is going to be a fixed width layout struct, and then it's going to have a fixed width of course it's going to be a float of 32. And then I'm going to define a layout here. I'm going to define a new layout F, of course with a fixed width layout. And then I'm going to define a layout. Okay, for those who are new to Fyne, there's a way, if you not Go, there's a way you can extend the Fyne layouts using just normal Go. Because you're going to get the objects, which is going to be a list of canvas objects. And then we have the size, which is going to be Fyne.size. Then we're going to loop through all those objects. We're going to have a for loop here, so that we give the object using a range of objects, all the objects that have been provided within this layout, and then we're going to resize them. Resize to Fyne.new size, because f.width, the width that we're going to be defined up there. Then object.main size dot height, and then we're also going to move this object so that we can move it to the center. Can move it to Fyne new position, of course. Then we're going to get the size dot width. Then we're going to subtract the width that we've supplied. But then we're going to divide this by 2 because we want to move it to the center. We're going to move this to the center. Then you're also going to supply the y, size dot height, then minus object dot mean size dot height, of course, and also going to divide this by 2 so that we ensure that it's going to be centered. And then we're going to define the mean size. This is how you actually extend Fyne. We're going to define the mean size. We're going to have a func I'm going to define the F for the fixed width, F for the fixed width, and then I'm going to define my function for the mean size. And then we have objects. It's just the same thing as this one. Just copy this, and then after defining that, this one is going to return Fyne dot size. I'm going to return the size, because the mean size. Then we're going to define a mean height, which is going to be a float 32. And then we're going to loop through the objects as well. For this case, object is going to be a range of the objects that we're going to supply for the mean size. And then we're going to define the mean height equals to objects dot mean size dot height. And then we're going to return Fyne dot new size, f dot width, then the mean height. And then finally we're going to define our function that we'll be using to center our forms mid center, because we're going to center it at the page. We're going to supply the content, which is going to be a Fyne that canvas objects, and then we supply the width, which is going to be a float of 32. Then this is going to return a container. So this is the function that we're going to use to center everything. The form, that is layout, so that we're going to reference the fixed width layout, which is going to accept a width that we're going to supply, and then we're going to return container dot new. We're going to supply the layout that we provided and the content that has been provided. So this content is going to be either a form or anything else. So we can use this layout here. We can come back here, and then we're going to say here centered form, going to be utils dot new fixed width. Then we can supply our contents, and then we can let this be centered form. Now let's run this so that we can see that this is working perfectly. This is the login form, the register form, I mean. Yeah, when we come to the register form, it's perfectly at the center. Now let's do the same for the login. So we can just copy that, then we come here. Okay, just a minute. Content is the login. Yeah, this is the login form. So I can just do that. And then we come here and we center it. And I believe this should resolve the issue. Yes, so we can see here our form is now properly aligned at the center. Username and password cannot be empty. And then we can just try this. It's working. We can register. That password and confirm password do not match because they are not matching, of course. So everything is working. If I say username and I also add password here, you can see we have successfully logged in. You can also log out. So we can see here, this is how you implement a very beautiful login and a register form. And another thing, as you can see how we are using dialog, I can add like a label so that if there is an error, it can display here instead of displaying the dialogues. So what you can do about that is you can maybe come in your login and define an error label. You can define an error label. Then you say widget new label, because it can be empty at the first, and I'm going to hide it because initially I don't want it to show. So we're going to come here and say, so if there's an error, we're going to say error label dot set text to. You can maybe set text to this. You can just copy that, you can paste it, and then you can get rid of this. And then we're going to say add dot set text, and then we're going to show it dot show. So in case if there is this error, it's going to show up, going to be displayed. So where do you want to display it? You can maybe display it at the bottom here before the login. So we can just say error label. So let's do that so that we don't show dialogues. Let's see. Our application is running fine. So you can see a username, they cannot be empty. And add this login and so on. So that's how you display these labels. And of course you can maybe come and with styles, and then you can maybe say Fyne your text align center, and then Fyne textile italics true. You can use italics of true so that they can show this. Then when you run that, it should be able to show for the italics part. So this is how you do your application. Of course, we can easily move this to their own section, because in a real application you don't want to keep all this in a single. You can just use a single file and move it to a different should be app, not main app.go, so that can be moved into a single file for better readability. So you can log in, because it is italicized. So guys, that's how you create these applications, that is the user interfaces. We'll be using these components in real application. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.